Hey everybody. We haven't done an update on the garden tower yet, so let's talk about that, and then I'm going to show you around the rest of the deck and how a bunch of other projects are going. So things are actually pretty well with the garden tower. I've been pretty happy with it. You can see from this deer tongue lettuce and also from this bib lettuce that the lettuce is doing really well. Also, this spinach is growing quite nicely on the top tier. As a matter of fact, we have already trimmed on this lettuce and this spinach twice before, and it just keeps coming back. So that's working out really well. This is the best spinach that I've ever grown. So I think if I ever wanted a spinach production, like if I ever started up my own CSA or something, I'd probably stick with a grow tower like this in order to grow my spinach. It's really working out quite nice. The borage seems to be doing really good as well, though the middle plant does seem to be taking over the area. Borage is a great little plant. If you've never used it before, the young leaves taste like cucumber and can actually be used in salads and gives a little extra texture, plus of course the cucumber flavor to your salad mix. Also, it produces a great array of flowers that really attract the pollinators, so this is a great dual purpose plant. This is also the best thyme that I've ever grown. I've never actually even had my thyme germinate, so I'm really excited about that. However, while we're speaking about germination, we have had some disappointments. Both the chives, the Lisbon onion, and the cosmos flower all never germinated. Now the chives and the onion are probably because of the time of the year. It got really warm really quick, but the cosmos I think I'm going to attribute to old seed. The seed was about 4 years old. I don't know how long cosmos seed is good for, but it was just the inexpensive seed stored in a plastic container for 4 years. It probably was just the seed is the reason why the cosmos hasn't grown. However, we are excited to see that we have a flower on the pineberry, so we might get to experience that flavor later this year. And we also have several berries developing on a lot of our strawberries. We even have one strawberry that has sent out a runner and has established itself in the pot next to it, which will make up for this one strawberry root that never actually developed into anything. We also have this lemongrass that's really not doing so well, and I think that's because of the time of the year that it is. I am having to rotate the tower to try to get sun to all sides, and I think that this lemongrass spent too long in the shade, or longer than it would care to, so it's back in the sun again, and hopefully it'll perk back up. Now, many of you had questions about the peas that I planted across the bottom, and sure enough, peas grow pretty easily, and they are not growing quite as erect as I expected them to. So you can see this one tendril's grasping on to the next tier up for its life. I think we've got an idea for a real simple system where we can truss up these peas. Look for that on another episode later. So still very happy with the GreenStalk Garden Tower, but with that update on the records, let's move on and talk about a whole bunch of the other projects growing around the deck. So y'all remember the broken pot fairy garden, and things are here and there with it. I learned some lessons, certainly. First off, this was inadvertently pushed to one side one day, and because of that, the entire staircase got put in 100% shade, and so some of the plants that were in there have died back a good bit. However, you can see this bunching grass. I don't know which variety of grass it is, but you can see that it has grown up and it's ready for a trimming. Thankfully, we won't need the weed whacker for that. Just a pair of scissors will do. I just haven't gotten around to tidying that up. Also, there was a plant right inside this very first nook right here that I've zoomed in on. It has died back. It did not like taking to being transferred. However, some other little weed plants are growing up, and so we're just going to let that progress naturally. The cactus didn't flower for very long. I don't think it was very happy, but it's not dead, so we're just going to keep moseying on with life and see how things go. So some lessons learned, some new things to get replanted down there on the stairs. We'll pick out some new moss and get that replanted, but otherwise, you know, it's not a failure. It's just a lesson in learning about which plants don't like being transplanted and which ones are going to tolerate the neglect that comes with this. You know, a lot of people do this with succulents and keep them indoors, and you don't have to water them very much. I specifically wanted mine outdoors, and so with that, I'm having to make sure to pick plants that can stay wet. So that's why I'm going with the moss, and if it happens to be a dry spell, I can come out here with a watering jug and take care of it. So then over here, I'll share with you this little rose plant. This was something that my wife bought for me when I was in the hospital. It's just a little miniature rose, and when I came home and was well enough to do so, I repotted it, and it is really taken off. It absolutely loves being in this new container. And I don't know what else to tell you. You can see the new stems going up that way. So it's pretty exciting. Also, some people have gone back and on the hard-coated seed germination video asked about how did the Black Locust really turn out. Well, a whole bunch of them got neglected. I had several germinate, but these are the only ones that put up with my neglecting. These three here are the holdovers. They went, what, almost a year and a half now with pretty much no attention whatsoever. And now I've got them out here trying to get them a little bit of nutrient, perk them back up, and hopefully we'll get them in the soil this winter when they're dormant. The little pot on the inside here is supposed to be germinating some Siberian pea shrub. But so far, nothing's coming up. I did the heat treatment with them. I'm just not getting anything to come up yet. It's been about 2.5 weeks. I've got no reason that I've got to hurry up with them, so I'll give them a little bit of time. I think the green, if you can see a couple specks of green, I think those are weed seeds that have floated in. Everything I planted was dead center in the pots. All right, so now we're coming over here to the float trays. And I planted a whole bunch of things on this front row, this front tray. There was marigold, German chamomile, more marigold, zinnia from the store packet, and zinnia that I saved from last year. And then on the back from right to left were some artichoke, some sacred basil, some hyssop, columbine flower, sweet basil, and then the rest of the entire container is Roman chamomile. Roman chamomile stays more low profile than German chamomile. It's not as medicinal as German, however it can tolerate some foot traffic, so I'm going to use those when they grow as little plugs around certain places and use them sort of like a lawn. So you can see how this is going. You can see what's germinating and what's not. And you know, I think for some of these seeds, like the marigolds, I think this keeps the potting material too moist. I don't know any other way to do that. I mean, it's what these are supposed to do, is float right on top. So you can see these are all just barely starting to get germinated. I'll share those more when there's something to really put on film. So the next thing over are the Cone-Tainers. These are something that were developed to make you be able to start trees and large shrubs from seed, and to make sure that the roots have someplace down to grow. They are much taller. These ones are 8 inches. They have flutes down the side of the inside to make sure that the roots go down and not just around in a spiral like the pots you typically get from a nursery. So I've got Black Locust, Redbud, Albizia, also known as Persian Silk Tree, a couple other names, Mimosa, and then Passion Flower. The Redbud turns out to be quite the stickler on trying to get that to germinate. I don't think any of those are going to come up. I've even tried a second round of sprouting and haven't gotten anything to put a root out yet. So all of these were pre-sprouted, and then once the seed had actually pushed out that first little root is when they went into the soil. The Redbud didn't have any like that, but I planted the seed anyway and haven't received anything for my efforts. I've since tried again to get the redbud seed to germinate and just haven't gotten any results. So if I want redbud, I may just end up having to do that from a cutting rather than trying to fight the seeds. The passion flower is relatively new to this container. I would not have expected it to germinate yet, especially not with the temperatures still getting kind of cool at night. So anyway, that's what's going on with that. The rest of these are open containers waiting for spring to get on enough so that I can take some cuttings from some azaleas and crepe myrtles and things like that, where I can propagate them into here. Now here is our wicking seed starter kit, and we've got some goodies that were started here. I wanted to get some watermelons and some cantaloupes going early, so let's take a peek. Let's see if any, these have been in here about 2 weeks. Yeah, look at that. So I've got the Chardonnay personal little cantaloupes. I told somebody else they were personal size cantaloupes, and she told me all cantaloupes are personal size. I agree with that 100%. These are more like a large beefsteak tomato, about the size they're supposed to come out. Tried to grow them once before, but the bugs got to them first. We're going to try again. And these are sugar baby watermelons. We're going to try some other watermelons as well, but these are the earliest ones, and I want to do my best to try to get some watermelons before the 4th of July. So that is my attempt there. And we will just replace this top to try to keep the soil as warm as possible and keep the germination going along. Once they are all sprouted, that top will come off. So there you have it. Watermelon seed starters, Cone-Tainers with trees, the float seed tray experiment with the nasty duck water to, to feed them, what's left of the last attempt at Black Locust and the Siberian pea shrub that still hasn't come up, roses from my lovely wife trying to encourage me to get well but make sure I still had something growing in my hospital room, and the GreenStalk Garden Tower. We'll show you at least 1/2 of it in one go. And the fairy garden, which needs a little TLC, but it'll come right along. Well, there you all go. I hope you enjoyed walking around on the back deck with me. I would appreciate any suggestions you have specifically about the floating trays. If you've done those before, what's your experience with the kind of plants or seeds that don't like the soil being that wet? Again, I don't have any marigolds that have come up, and some of these aren't coming up as quickly as I thought they would. I could attribute that to it having been cloudy a bit over the last week. We got a lot of rain. It could be because the temperature has gone down a little bit over the last week. Or it could be that these seeds just don't like how damp their feet are, and that's the part that I'm worried about. Is that something I should be concerned about, or do you think the other factors are more of the attributing factors on why they aren't really exploding, so to speak, why they're not growing very quickly? If you've got any questions about anything else that you saw or some advice about something that you saw, let me know. One thing I didn't mention before is that we are providing some nutrition to the GreenStalk garden in 2 different ways. We're applying some duck water through the top, and water that's had duck's manuring in it going through here. We're also using an organic liquid fertilizer, one that's got sea kelp and all those kind of good things in it. So about once every 2 weeks or so, we give that a dose through here to make sure that this keeps some nutrition up as well. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you next time.